Welcome to the Mindset on Resilience podcast, where we're building a more confident, resilient, and mentally strong community. I'm your host, Daniel Truelove, and I am excited for the conversation that we get to have today. Man, the man that I'm going to bring to y'all today, get ready. A man of wisdom, a man that has done some absolutely amazing things, not only within his personal life, but also within his professional career as well. I've had the opportunity to just glean from some of the wisdom that he has. I've also had the opportunity to be able to see the way he leads and what has allowed him to get exactly to where he is in life right now. Obviously, when it comes to education, to have success, you have to be resilient. And this man is every bit of that. And so I'm excited to bring to you none other than the director of student services. Listen, I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to have you. You better be glad we ain't got Mr. Greg on here. You know what I'm saying? Listen, Mr. Hurst, he be like, oh yeah, that's a $1 million man right there. We had breakfast one time, and I said, man, I'm getting ready to eat breakfast with a millionaire. He said, you must be going to eat with Ty Block.
That sounds exactly like something to say.
Oh man, that's him. That's him. And so, yes, sir. So, how's everything going with you today?
Everything's wonderful, Daniel. I'm just here working with students, working with my colleagues, and just really living the dream.
That's good. That's good. So, for those that may not understand, what exactly is a director of student services? And after you talk a little bit about that, can you tell us your journey of how you got there?
Okay. Yeah. So most of the time, Daniel, when people think about school and they look at school system, they think about academics, they think about sports. But most people don't realize that a lot of our students that come into the school each day have a lot of barriers to their education. And unlike private schools, we can't screen you and say, no, you can't come here. So what we have to do is we have to look at ways to work around those barriers. And that's what student supports and services are. Students come in with academic needs, personal needs, attendance needs, whatever those barriers are, our department works to remove those barriers. And so we consist of myself, a coordinator of student services, we have a coordinator of mental health, we have 17 social workers, we have two homebound teachers, and we have an attendance, a person that is prevention and support, and they deal with attendance and things of that nature. So that's what we do. My journey here has been it's not been long. It really feels like it's been overnight, but I've been in education now 25 years, and I started out as a special educator in the classroom. From there, I was an elementary assistant principal. I've been a secondary principal, high school programs, and a middle school principal, and of course, coordinator of student services, and now director of student services. So that's been my journey.
Okay, wow. So you've done it all. So you to be in your role right now, I think one of the most important things is to be able to have the lens and the vantage point that other people that are in those roles that they have. So when you say stuff or when you give advice, recommendations, things like that, it's not that you're saying them. You can understand and give them that perspective from how they can implement it because you've been in their shoes before.
Absolutely, and that really, honestly, Daniel, that's the thing that I love now. I think that when you do anything, you should grow in your career and your profession, but you reach a point where when you start mentoring other people, it is really rewarding and fulfilling. And I feel like I'm at a place now where I've gained so much, I'm able to pour back into other young administrators, and I'm telling you, I really truly am living the dream in that regard.
Man, that's awesome. So, what was along your journey? What would you say? What was one of the most challenging things that you experienced on your journey to get to where you're at?
I think probably, Daniel, my childhood is it's not unique, but we had some difficulties because I grew up in a house where I was the youngest of eight, and my father was the only one that worked in the house, and of course we had our issues. So when you hear information about adverse childhood experiences, I had a lot of those. Going to school, not having what I need, and I did not realize when I became an adult, how my confidence was shaken by what I went through as a child. And so what I had to deal with was when I would deal with an angry parent or a student, that little boy from, when I was 5, 10 to 10 years old would show back up in those moments. And I realized that I had to overcome him if I was going to be successful in this field.
You just said it. You just said a mouthful, then, because I'm very familiar with ACEs. It's something that having similar experiences that you had, and even losing siblings. I'm the youngest of 11, so you don't meet a whole lot of people nowadays that have as many siblings as we do. But I had 10, and I lost three of them. By the time I was 14. So talk about ACEs, those traumatic experiences that you can have. And one of the things that and the reason why I'm sharing this because I would like to go a little deeper with this with you. I was speaking with a social worker friend of mine, and he shared something with me that kind of speaks to what you were just talking about. He says that you can grow in age, but you don't necessarily grow along with your age. He says you can meet some people that they're 30, 40, 50 years old, but you see they kind of probably like stuck as a kid or something like that. He says one of the things that people don't recognize is that if you do not deal with the traumatic or the adverse experiences that you have gone through in life, any moment can reset you back to when you experienced whatever that was. So you could be 40, 50, 60 years old, but you can revert back to that, insecure moment, or you can revert back to that, curling up in a ball moment that reminds you of that place where you didn't feel safe, or reminds you whatever the challenges or trauma that you went through. And so, can you, if you don't mind sharing, obviously, I want that to be a safe space for you to be able to do that. But how did you kind of like grow from in confidence from where you began realizing that you had to kind of deal with that, your young boy, to become the man and the professional that you are today?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Daniel. It's really been through my faith that's helped me. I became a Christian while I was in college, and that began a life journey for me to help me to. I don't. In fact, if I had not become a Christian, I don't think I could have done this. Um, so one of the things that over the years I've developed a love for reading my Bible, listening to I'm listening to preaching, being in relationships with other Christians, and what I realize is that as a Christian, it's a journey. We are always overcoming ourselves, and so it's a journey for me. There are times you said something a second ago. A lot of times, even in my parents, I have a 21-year-old daughter, about to be 20, 16-year-old son. And when they are mistreated, sometimes I can go back to moments when I was a child and being mistreated at school, uh, being things that were said to me by adults. All of those emotions can come into one moment. And if I'm not careful, if I don't properly deal with that person, a lot of times people, they'll see somebody do something bizarre where they hurt people. And I know that's not the way, but I fully understand how they get there because trauma can rush in like waters in your mind and emotions, and you're not rational. And it happens to our kids all the time. And I know how they get there. They're not, and it's not even they're angry with who they're dealing with at the moment. It's everything coming to a moment. And if you don't deal with that person, it could be detrimental to your future and whatever progress you're making.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. Um, but you said, some people can't understand, but I feel like everybody understands how someone can get to that moment. It's just that you refuse to empathize or see it from someone else's perspective. I like say for example, have you ever been in traffic and someone cut you off? Right, you sped up to get beside them. or you said something to them. Us as an adult made that choice. Us as an adult did that. Now take some 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 30, whatever age they are, maybe even younger than that does not have the language, the maturity, or understanding that you have or we have, and they make an immature comment, or they make a mistake. We all could
Yes.
understand if we choose to identify the areas that we are still working on with our lives. But if we see ourselves as perfect individuals, individuals who don't make mistakes, don't have any issues, it's the human element of life. We all have things that we are working on. Come on now, we all do,
Yeah.
and we should continue to want to. If we don't have anything you're working on, that means that you've removed yourself from development.
Yes. You're exactly right. The issue is that we live in such a hypercritical culture. We have shows on TV that we constantly scrutinize people's lives, and we criticize them. And we live with a sense of self-righteousness. I think one of our biggest problems in America is a sense of self-righteousness, and it affects our schools and children. We look at other people in their worst moments, and we just make all kind of judgment calls about them. You're exactly right. We all can understand if we choose to, if we want to.
I definitely see that your faith, it plays a big part in who you are and how you've gained the confidence and have grown just personally, but also in your walk and as you continue to go throughout life. And so, uh, tell me a little bit about this. Like, how did you kind of get to the space to where like you were moving forward? Because I think some people right now can be in that moment to whether let's say they are having that waters rushing in moment, and they feel like they've made a mistake, or maybe they made multiple mistakes, and may feel like there's no coming back from this, or maybe there is no tomorrow. Like you said, there are times to where you could feel like this, but yet you still have learned to kind of like have more control, and able to maybe even like kind of calm yourself down, or kind of like gain some resolve about yourself. um is it anything in particular that you do that allows for you to see more than just the moment?
Yeah, I would say that the game changer for me has been relationships. And I like to use this as an example. Um, like when you go into Sam's, they have these little tables set up all over the place, and they let you sample something. And when you get a taste of it, you have a desire for it. And I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough to be in relationships with people who have exposed me to a different way of thinking, and I didn't even know it could be as good as it could be, because I saw so much dysfunction. And when I would see that and be in relationship with them, I was thinking, oh, wow, you mean every man doesn't cheat on his wife, or things simple like that. And so being positive relationships, it has absolutely changed my life. And people who invested in me and saw that I had a hunger for better, but just didn't know how to get there. And so those are things to self-regulate. Just even now, we always tell children that they need to be accountable. But even as a 47-year-old man, I have people that I'm accountable to. And when I am left, I can talk to them and they can help me kind of guide my thinking back in the right path. So I think that's something we always need.
So tell me a little bit about kind of like you've obviously been, like you said, talk about educator, then principal, well, assistant principal, principal, then a coordinator, and now the director. Was this always your desire to like be in a central office role, or to be a principal, or why did you even choose the field of education?
Well, I chose the field of educate, and the overall answer is no. And some people may laugh at this, though they may laugh, but every day, like, I can't believe that I get to do what I'm doing, and I really mean that. Like, I have, in my mind, have way overachieved where I should have gotten to. But one of the things was it goes back again to relationships. I transferred schools when I was in high school, and I met a gentleman who was my trigonometry teacher. He taught in such a way that I would sit in class and I wanted to be him. I thought, man, I can do this. And so I didn't even know how to enroll in school. I had no clue. There was a counselor that said, hey, you know what? I think you're smart. Will you enroll in school? I said, where would I enroll in? And literally, she helped me. I got filled out my application and all of that. I got in school. She helped me apply for financial aid, but I had no dreams of doing any of that really. And so I remember leaving and going to school in Montgomery. And my first year was at Alabama State University.
ASU, baby. It's a great day to be a Hornet. I apologize for interrupting. The swag, the ASU came out of me. I apologize. Continue on, sir.
You sound like you've been down there before. Well, I spent my first year there. And my parents, honestly, they didn't even know what the school was. I loaded up my car with what I had, and I went and enrolled and all of that and got in school. And of course, that's where, my life changed. I met some people that introduced me to the Lord, and I just thought I need to be back home because my economics were bad at the time. I didn't have the money really to be away from home. So I transferred to the University of Alabama, and I just became exposed to more and more, and that's kind of what got me going. And just people I met along the way. I met a lady, God just puts people on your path. I met a lady in the special ed department at the university, and she worked with me, and I ended up getting scholarship money, and I won an award in the department. And so when those things happened, I started to really, really gain confidence. And so then, as a teacher, I was just thinking I would teach, but the superintendent would come around and visit classrooms every now and then. He would bother me about getting it. And immediately after I finished, I got a job the very next month. And so it's the rest is
So that kind of speaks to that, that community piece that you had somebody along your way that kind of encouraged you and nudged you to move in this direction. And now that started you on this journey. And what did he see?
uh I think he saw uh one of my gifts that I had to discover later on. One of my gifts is leadership. And of course that doesn't mean that I'm not perfect at all. It still needs developing. But I love leading because I'm a transformational thinker. I always look at things and see how they can be different. I was a kid that would take toys apart because I wanted to see what else it could become, and I see the best in people. Even people that I don't like, I wouldn't become close friends with them. For whatever reason, when I see people, I always see what they could be and their potential, and I think that's been an asset for me. It's helped me not to hold grudges, but to see how I can help them develop, and then how they can help me develop. Because I think that when you deal with somebody difficult, it's an opportunity for growth, and also it's an opportunity for them to grow. And so that's just sort of how I frame things and how I see things.
I I, I think it's interesting that sometimes it takes somebody else acknowledging or seeing something in us that sends us on a journey that we weren't expected to go down. And you kind of like, oh man, this dude keep coming on here, man, come on somewhere. But it was him seeing something in you, and knowing that you had this in you the whole time. As a matter of fact, he was a transformational thinker as well. He saw you in that classroom, but he didn't see you in that classroom. He saw you beyond that. And I see, from what I know about you, you're somebody that pays that forward and continues to pay it forward for other people as well. And so I appreciate you for the simple fact that what somebody gave to you, you recognize that gift, and now you continue to give that gift to other people.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's the same with you. When I first met you, Daniel, like when I'm around you, something comes alive in me. And that's how come I know that's the way that I know that I'm with people that are like minded. Like you see the world, but you're not content with it as is. And I love what you're doing, and I'm telling you, it blesses me, and it's changed me as well. So I just want to say thank you for you. You are making a difference. You absolutely are making a difference, and I cannot be more happy, just to know you.
Man, I appreciate that. Listen, every day you get get that you get words like that, man. And so I really do appreciate it. And so man, I think that your journey is one to where you said it seems like you wake up and you're doing exactly what it is that you love to do. And you kind of you say over exceeded the expectations, but you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're exactly doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and you've been equipped to do this the whole time. And so talk to me about a day in the life, because now you're no longer working teaching, you in the classroom, principal, you're in the building, but now you're in the central office. What was that transition like for you, and was it a challenge to go out of the classroom to now impacting outside of the building?
Uh, I think the only challenge was realizing the the weight of your influence. Like when people call you, they really expect you to know what you're talking about. And so one one of the things that I had to realize was it's important to always be a student of what I'm doing, because I don't want to just give people canned answers, and I want to help them. So I've got to always be growing so that they can grow. And so I think that that was probably the biggest thing. And it's always been like that, but you really realize it when you getting calls from 36 principals every day, and a superintendent, and people that work with you that have confidence in what you do, that you want to be equipped. And so I always tell people I don't hang my degrees on my wall because I'm not done learning, and I don't want anything around me to signal that I'm finished. I'm always learning, always. And so that's how I feel about it.
I don't hang my degrees on the wall because I'm not done learning. Come on now, I love it. So you're always a student, is what I heard from that. So kind of walk me through, kind of like mindset wise, what kind of, because I'm just thinking, I obviously run a business, and I go and I speak to students and educators, but it's in the my classroom is just a little bit different, so it's there's a expiration date on the classroom time as it relates to me, but what is it like to have someone that always expects for you to know the right answer? You know what I'm saying? Whether you know the right answer or not, there's an expectation that you know this. And the only reason why I'm coming to you is because I expect for you to know this. What like mindset like do you have to approach that with, especially when what happens when you don't have the answer? You're like, what is that like?
Well, I think it would be pressurized if I had a mindset that I had to always know everything. I think the key thing in leadership is humility. And sometimes the most powerful thing I can say is I don't know, but I'll find out. And so because I never present myself in a way that I'm over you, I'm lording over you. Even when I'm giving them advice, it's a collaborative think tank that we're. And so because of that, it's easy. I could just say, you know what, I don't know. Let me find out. You investigate, and let's come back together and see if we come up with a solution.
Leadership can feel at times like you're under a microscope, and people are looking at you, people are expecting things from you. Uh, and it kind of goes to what we spoke to earlier. It's the human element. Nobody knows is all knowing as it relates to anything. So that means that if you take that, have the mindset that I have to know, then you also buy in to the reality of moments that you don't know, and that can kind of like hit you. Oh man, well I don't know. Can I actually say that I don't know? What are they going to think? Now you go down this rabbit hole, and you lose the reality and the human element of it. But I love the fact that you approach leadership from a collaborative standpoint, and you're okay with letting people know that, hey, you're still in the classroom.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's why a lot of times our children feel like they can't achieve certain things, is because when we're prideful, we make it seem like what we're doing is rocket science, and it's not. People are not successful without making mistakes. If you're going to be successful, in fact, you have to become accustomed to making mistakes and be okay with it. And you nothing changes unless you make mistakes. And so, with us having that fixed mindset, as opposed to teaching our kids to have a growth mindset, it hinders them, and it thinks that they think they can achieve certain things. But the most accomplished person, if for them to get in that position, they had to make a ton of mistakes, and they learn from.
It's failing forward. I saw a recent. I don't know if you watched the Pivot podcast, but I saw a episode of them. Well, I didn't watch the whole episode, but it was a snippet of Dez Bryant's episode with them, and he was talking about the experience that he had, as a child growing up, and his parents, say yelling at him before he went to school, yelling at him before he went to bed, and he has his thing that he reads on his phone. He says, "I won't like yell at my kids before they go to sleep. I won't yell at my kids before they go to school and expect for them to have a good day." Like he's breaking these generational curses, and long story short, the thing that I talk about, thing that I took away from that was that, like, he had this experience, and now he says, "Man, I'm gonna create a different experience. Like, this wasn't how it was for me, but this is how I'm going to make sure that it is for my kids." And I bring that up because somebody may, hey, a teacher or an administrator may have felt like, I have to have all the answers. Like I can't mess up. And maybe it was your administrator or somebody, somebody that taught you that way. But you don't have to stay underneath that realm of thinking. You have an opportunity to kind of break free from that and realize that, hey, if my students, see me as real, right? If I'm in a grocery store and they're like, "Wow, what are you here?" That's not a compliment. You know what I'm saying? The fact that you're in a grocery store is natural. The fact that you're at the gas station is natural. But they don't see you as real. So why are you doing this real stuff? Because I'm real. I'm a person with a life outside of the school, and I love the fact that you bring that life. Hey, this is all of me. And I think one of the things that I'm taking from that is like just to continue to be real, and continue to present the human element of who you are, no matter where it is that you go.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's authenticity might be one of the greatest things that we possess. And we think that, one of the things that concerns me about social media is that social media is filled with people's highlight reels of their life. And people are deceived into thinking that it's like that all the time. But we just by virtue of just living, that you have up and down moments, and it's good that people know about all of those, because you become a leader when people see you grow through pain, or they see you lead through struggle. That is maybe even more valuable than them seeing you lead when everything's going well. And so it's so important to stay authentic to who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, but I think the challenge with that is that, when it comes to being authentic, and the quote, I'm not 100% sure how it goes, but it says something about like if we um, live for the applause of others, then we'll also like die by their approval. And with social media, it's applause, right? You get the likes, you get the comments when you go on a trip somewhere, or you do this, that, and the third, right? And everybody's talking about it. It's like, oh man, like now, you get that dopamine hit. It feels good, and now you put something on there about, let's say, a challenge, and only two people comment, and nobody likes it. And it's like, oh wow, maybe I shouldn't share that. And it's like, no, like the fact that other people didn't necessarily approve of it doesn't mean that you shouldn't share it. Like, be authentically who you are, and if that's something that you wanted to post, that's something that you wanted to put out. That's all that matters. Now, how other people receive it, that's not on you, that's on them. And so I think that we start living our lives based on what other people want, and we kind of lose ourselves in that process.
We really do, and Daniel, I think that that is contributing to our mental health crisis. There's no question the approval addiction in our culture, things that we are, ascertaining our value from that we shouldn't, and those things leave us searching for something, and we can't figure out why. When we get it, we're still as empty as we were the day we started. Is because our value shouldn't come from any of those things. Our value comes from God, and of course, from my faith, the price that was paid for me. That's how I determine how valuable I am. A life was given for me, and so whether I'm in the hood or I'm in a mansion or whatever I have, it doesn't matter in terms of my value. And I think that that's one of the things that's hurting our kids now as well. We're getting our value from the wrong places.
So, like from your vantage point, you see not one school, you see schools, and so do you mind giving us just like a snapshot of kind of like some of the challenges that schools, and not just like saying your school district, just like schools in general across the country, like what are some of the challenges that we're facing in schools, even outside? I know you mentioned mental health, but like what are we experiencing nowadays?
Well, I would say at the top of the list would be mental health. When I first started my career, the number of students that are coming in kindergarten with undiagnosed mental health is just going through the roof. Um, it is, and really the sad part is that it's a long time before those students is discovered, what's actually wrong with them, and so teachers have to and administrators have to ride that pony until more information is provided. The other challenge is, um, kids who come from a background where education is not important. It's hard to convince them of an ideal of success when they see people in their communities all the time that are okay but are not doing anything to make a difference. And so that becomes a huge challenge when they come into a classroom, because they're thinking, what are you talking about? I know my uncle that sells drugs and he's fine, or he doesn't work and he's okay. And so our responsibility is not just math and reading anymore, it's life. I mean, it's giving them something to go after, and we have to be more inspirational than we've ever had to be. And so those are some of the critical challenges post COVID. For whatever reason, now that people see that there was a situation where they didn't have to come to school, one of our biggest challenges is getting people to come to school. They think, well, it maybe it's not important for me to be there, and so they don't know the research that comes behind kids not coming to school, and how it just increases their chance of dropping out and all of that. So those things are magnified, and that's what we deal with now more than ever.
I was speaking at school. Where was I at? It was just the other day. It doesn't matter where I was at. Anyway, um, one of the administrators had a kid. He was in some trouble. He's like, will you speak to him? Surely. And one of the first things I asked him, I said, you don't think school is important, do you? He said, nope. I said, there your answer right there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a reason why he's acting what this isn't important to him. And so, so I'm sitting there chopping it up with him, talking to him. I was like, so why don't you, think it's important? Like, what am I going to do with this? I'm not going to use math. I'm not going to use any of this stuff. I said, you're probably right. I said, but let me ask you this. I said, do you want to be successful? He said, yeah. I said, good. I said, everybody does. I said, name for me the person that's most successful that quit. Go. Oh no. It's gotta be somebody. Name me your most successful quitter. Right. He's like, yeah. He's like, so I stunned him on that. I said, okay. I was like, okay, got you. So I said, name me somebody that you know of, and he was into sports, but so obviously student athlete, so you should be doing well in school if you want to play sports. Name me somebody, that you admire as an athlete. He's like, oh, Michael Jordan. I was like, okay, Michael Jordan. I said, so tell me what happened to him. He's like, one thing I love about him is that he didn't make it on his team, but then he kind of bounced back and he was able to be. Oh, okay. Now we're going somewhere. So you can't name for me somebody that is the most successful that quit, but you can name for me somebody successful that had to overcome challenges, or somebody that was told no, somebody that was told that they weren't good at something, but yet they still had to push through that. My man, you want success, then this is your training ground right here. You may not use this, but I promise in life, you're going to have to overcome some adversity. In life, you're going to have to do something that you don't want to do. Go home today and ask your parents, do they want to pay their mortgage or pay their rent? They're going to probably say no, right? We don't want to do it, but guess what? We have to, or we're homeless, right? So guess what? In life, there are some things that you have to do that you may not want to do. You learn that right now. This is your training ground. You want success. Go through this challenge that you experience now, and you're better prepared for it. And that kid was like, that kind of makes sense. So guess what? We have to like stop making this thing about A, B, C, 1 + 2, A squared plus B squared, like related to real life situations that they can be going through and they may experience, and like help them see the common aspect of it so that they can get the greater good of it.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what you bring up is a very good point in that exercise you went through. Every lesson now has to include a component of relevance, because when or in context, if students don't if relevance and context are not included, they see learning as just being some abstract thing that they just got to do. And so I love the way you painted that picture for that student. But that's what every teacher has to do as well. They've got to help them to either understand the way you just broke it down, or they got to get them to see the relevance of what they're learning. And really everything that they learn should be relevant in some way. They've got to find that out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you, and it's becoming. I was we just be 100% honest. More and more challenging, in education because of the way, we have more and more challenges just in the world. I mean, just is what it is, and so you have individuals that were educators. Some believe in them right there. So the question I have for you as somebody that is in the education space, there may be an let's say educated is listening to this right now. What advice, what encouragement would you have for them that for them to like keep doing what they're doing? Like there's a reason why you got in this, and to encourage them to keep fighting.
Uh, I would say, if you have either lost it or you haven't discovered it, you got to know your why. And you got to know it every day, because they're in a classroom as a principal, whatever you're doing, there are going to be a lot of hard days. But when I have hard days, I always go back to my why. And I also want to encourage them by saying that sometimes when you think you're not making a difference, you are making a world of difference. I run into people now, and former students, their recollection of my experience with them and mine is very different. They were knuckleheads to me, but they'll say, "Oh, you changed my life. I love you." They'll hug me like we were always best friends, and it didn't end that way. So sometimes they are playing a role in you, and it looks like you're not making a difference, but you have poured so many seeds there that eventually those seeds do come up. And I could say that more keep doing what you're doing.
That's good. That's good. As you mentioned your faith earlier, and I'll be honest, I have challenges because not only do I go in schools and work with kids, but I work with kids on a weekly basis, whether it be through our youth ministry, in our lives, the kids that we mentor, things like that. So, man, I ain't gonna lie, I won't lie and act like it's not challenging because it is. But one of the things that you kind of mentioned earlier was your faith, and there's a reference that I have to go back to. It talks about some plant, some water. right? Um, but growth isn't determined by us. We're not in charge of growth. We're in charge of our assignment. So you may be in a season of planting. You may be in your season of watering. And you may not see things sprouting up. You may not see things germinate. You may not even see the finished product until years later. But just stay committed to the role that you have. And if it's planting, plant well. If it's watering, water well. And eventually, those things I believe they'll grow if we stay committed to what it is that we should be doing, man. And so, thank you so much for sharing with us all the gems you have with us today. We have this last segment that's called Better Days Ahead. And what Better Days Ahead is just if you have a mantra, whether it's a quote or something that you live by that encourages you to keep moving, that when you face adversity, when you face challenges, this is kind of what gets you through. For the people that listen in, what encouragement do you have for us in regards to Better Days Ahead?
Uh, well, I think one of my favorite, and it's not a quote, but it's a scripture, and it just says that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord and who are the called according to His purpose. And if I continue to, in my career, see God's purpose in it, all things may not be good, but they'll work together for my good. And so I think that as it relates to resilience, period, the topic that we're discussing today is so important to be optimistic about the future and have an optimistic outlook. And one of the ways to do that is see difficulty as an opportunity for growth. And when we frame it that way and we realize that we're always in school, life is a school. And just like we teach students, a lot of times God is teaching us as well. And so if we'll humble ourselves and be students of life, we'll grow. And in the end, we'll see the rewards that we want. But we just got to hang in there.
That's good. That's good. Well, man, thank you so much. That's where we, end our shows, and we end it with the information, the wisdom that you just gave us about better days ahead, and all things work together for good. And so, not every moment may be good, but continue to be a student of life, and life teaches us lessons. And the lesson that I just learned, I just personalize this, that challenges are an opportunity for growth. So embrace growth and keep moving forward. Thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate you, Mr. Blocker. Thank you so much for all the wisdom and knowledge. That's all we have for today. And until we see you next time.